All right, so the other day I saw someone saying online that God set up Adam and Eve to fail by putting the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the garden. There was no point for the tree. And then they say that God is a God that doesn't give us a choice. It doesn't make any sense. The whole point of the tree of knowledge of good and evil was to give Adam and Eve the choice to disobey God. If he didn't do it, they had no out. Even Lucifer, Satan himself, had the choice to not serve God, and that's what he chose. He chose to disobey. What the tree of knowledge of good and evil is told to us in the Bible is actually said that it's a good tree. It's not just the tree of life that was a good tree. If you go ahead and read that in Genesis chapter 2, it says every tree that God made was good. And that includes the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Why? One, it gives Adam and Eve the choice to disobey God. They learn that God is not a tyrant. He's a God who gives each of us a choice to choose to obey him by faith or not. Number two, it also was a way to show Adam and Eve that God trusted them and had room for them to grow. One of the greatest powers you and I have as human beings is the ability to practice self-control. If we would realize our greatest ability is not just the freedom to do whatever it is we want, whenever we want, however we want, but the ability to say to myself, no, even though my mind may want that thing, I know it's not good for me, so I'm going to keep myself from doing that wrong thing that will bring its own set of consequences. God thinks so highly of you and I that he says, I want you to learn how to practice self-control. And you may have found this in your New Year's resolution. The more and more you resist, the better you become at resisting. The more and more you give in, the better you become at giving in. And here the tree of knowledge of good and evil gave them a choice, and number two, helped them practice self-control. The last thing the tree of knowledge of good and evil did for Adam and Eve, and why it was a good tree. It was a place God had told them not to go that was not good for them. You see, when you take God at his word, the only place that Satan, it seemed to be, would be able to get access to Adam and Eve was at the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so he gives them the command, don't eat from that tree. It would be best to them to think of that as saying, don't go near that tree. It's not going to be good, because that's where you may fall into temptation. But if you trust me at my word, you won't find yourself in conversation with the devil. Did you know that the tree of knowledge of good and evil was actually a good tree? What's that in your own life? What's the place God has chosen for you that gives you a choice to trust him even though you may not know why? Number two, it gives you a place to practice your self-control. And number three, that's probably just the place Satan is waiting for you to come so he can tempt you. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, good tree, not a bad one.